boy, what is going on today, chat? Corey, Nick, Foreign, 06, Stella, what's going on? Welcome in, everyone. Happy grade review day. Episode 72. We've been doing this for a while, chat. We're going to continue on. We have a lot of 151 tonight. A lot of 151, a lot of Destined Rivals, a lot of Modern. A lot of Modern, a little bit of Mid-Era. So it'll be a good episode for sure. So welcome in, everyone. Welcome in. Chris, what's up? Josh, what's up? Welcome in, welcome in. How can I submit? If you go to the link in bio, once you're in the link in bio, just click or tap the Discord icon. And then once you're there, just submit your cards in the grade review channel. The queue is closed for tonight, but it is first come, first serve, so the faster you can submit, the faster you'll get in. I stream every Wednesday, starting at around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I think we're just going to get right into it, guys. So if you guys are new here, welcome. My name is Galaxia Gaming, and every Wednesday at around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do what's called grade review. So what grade review is, in a nutshell, is members of the community will submit their cards in our Discord for free to have basically like a little workshop session that we review your cards, again, absolutely for free, to give both my assessment as well as chat's assessment on what we think your cards would get as a PSA grade. I've been keeping track. I've been doing this a while, and it seems like the people that return and report on their returns from PSA tends to be pretty accurate. And so a lot of the tips that I'm going to be going over today can not only carry on to you if you're thinking about submitting to GameStop or submitting your cards to yourself. We need to pay attention to things to look out for, because I see a lot of posts on TikTok and a lot of posts everywhere else of a lot of people saying, well, this should have gotten a 10 or this should have gotten a 9. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into it. So just to try to save you guys some money, I do this every week. So just more of like an education piece. And so we are going to get into it. Another thing, too, to keep in mind is if you guys are ever trying to find good deals online, eBay, for those of you who don't know, eBay is starting the works of if you buy a card that is ungraded from eBay, you will soon have the option, if the card is $250 or more, you'll have the option to submit it directly to PSA for grading. So all these tools are all going to be through a browser. So everything that we're going to be going over today are things you can do on yourself to see if you can find a card that's worth grading and not waste your money. So we're going to be going over a lot about that. So if you guys have any questions about anything going on today, including grading or just questions that you may have, I also vend as a part-time. So I have a lot of experience in the space. And so that experience just ultimately kind of boils down to a stream. And if you guys want to have a different viewing experience as well, I do stream over on Twitch. So I'm multi-streaming tonight. So if you want a little bit of a different view, that is available as well. Can you grade my cards? Of course. It won't be tonight, Big Philly, because the queue is closed. But if you want to go into the link in bio and join the Discord and then submit your cards in the grade and review channel, it is absolutely for free, but it is first come, first serve. So the faster you can submit that, the faster you will be reviewed. Okay, so first up, we're going to start with the subscribers. First, Frazzle. So subscribers get priority grade review each week. So Frazzle has a lot of 151. So as a reminder, the things that we look for when grading, we have 4 main grading criteria. So is centering, corners, edges, and surface. So typically with Modern, really the big things that kind of make or break these cards from getting a 10 is centering and corners. So we're really going to try to focus on that tonight for anything Modern. And anything else outside of Modern, so mid-era or later, is going to be primarily all 4. So there's going to be a lot more to pay attention to when we come to the more mid-era to vintage stuff. So first up is the Japanese Venusaur EX. So let's take a look. So centering on this bad boy is super good. No worries there. Corners look good. And the other thing that I'm going to be using tonight, which I highly recommend, the tool, and I'm sure a few people are going to ask, but the tool that I'm going to be using tonight is the Magnifying Glass Hover Zoom. So this is a Chrome extension to help us zoom in on these really small details that ultimately make or break PSA 10. So that's one of the tools that I use when I'm doing these online grade assessments. So that top right corner looks good on the front. Top left corner looks good. This left edge looks great. Bottom left-hand corner looking good. Maybe a little bit of something stuck there right where the tip of my mouse is. But that looks like something you can either wipe off or just the lighting, because we also have to consider lighting as well. Because sometimes with these textured cards, it gives a little bit of an illusion of something being there, but more often than not, it's just lighting or the angle in which the picture is being taken. So a few factors that we have to consider. And one thing that I noticed that I often don't actually see on modern, especially Japanese cards. And so this is really kind of dependent on how well the card was taken care of. And I'll kind of zoom in here just a second here. So this, what I'm using right now is just a regular snipping tool built into Windows. This tool really helps us kind of highlight some of these issues that I'm seeing. So a lot of this whitening here on the top. I'm kind of highlighting here, here, and here. So those are, from what it looks like, bits of whitening that would prevent this card from getting a 10. And so if I kind of zoom out, this is what a kind of card looks like at face value. But as we really zoom in here, those problems are going to ultimately prevent this card from getting a 10. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that we see that whitening. So we're probably in at best 9, at worst an 8. Very bright, taking pictures to share with you and your viewers today. Yes. What's going on, Frazzle? In addition, this looks like something stuck onto the card. I agree, Mike. How's it going, Mike? Maybe something here. So we're now I kind of am really looking to make sure that there isn't any. We got some more potential whitening here too. And again, a lot of these factors could be just the angle in which the picture is taken, lighting, because it is very bright. For example, I think even just this section here is more lighting than anything. So I would doubt that is actually anything, because that, again, looks more of like lighting than actual whitening on that bottom right corner. As we kind of go up the right side here. This, to me, looks like that's on the mat there. So yeah, I think this probably wouldn't get the 10. More so from the spots that I circled in green. Those look more like whitening to me than anything. So unfortunately, that'd probably get a 9 or an 8, depending on the severity, more on the top part. I'm really kind of worried about the top, to be quite honest with you. So if that is as severe as what we're seeing in real life as it is on the picture, I'd probably lean more towards an 8. But if some of those are kind of popping out more so because of the lighting, then you might be leaning more towards a 9. But if those are present, the top ones especially, I would lean more towards an 8 on that one, unfortunately, for that Venusaur EX. And for the Charizard, let's hope that the same thing doesn't happen here. So centering on the front looking good. Again, when we look at centering, we're really looking at the silver borders, and we're kind of doing a ratio between the left and the right, and top and bottom. I'll go over, if we see one that's a little bit on the edge or on the fence, I'll go over how to actually do that. But for right now, it's really well centered. Both top, bottom, left, and right, so we're good there. Corners on the front look good. Top right, top left. Left edge looks okay. Maybe a little bit of fuzz stuck there on the side, but not too worried about that. Again, some more fuzz on that left side. Bottom edge looking good. Right edge looking good. Again, this is probably all like lighting right here. It's not really actually whitening. These 5 cards are all in my Master Set 151 binder. I pulled the Squirtle, the Blastoise line, a Charmander, the Charizard line, and a God Pack. Damn. That's super sick, Frazzle. Okay. So the back of this Charizard looks to be okay. Definitely a lot better compared to the Venusaur, I can tell you that. Not any whitening. Probably, I'd say this little bit might just be stuck on the side of the card. So probably just wipe that off, or just kind of rub your finger across it to probably pull that off, because it might just be stuck on the edge of the card there. But the centering looks really good. Kind of same thing here on the bottom as well. A little bit of that lighting effect, kind of making this kind of glow almost, in a weird way. This is kind of the best way I can explain it. So there's a lot of lighting, and again, I've kind of said this in past videos, but just due to where the light source is coming from, we have to be a little bit biased here. So this is a really good I made a video about it, but I think it's worth repeating. We're reviewing cards that the community has sent in the Discord for a free grade review or a free grade assessment, Pudge. So one of the things to keep in mind when you're looking at cards online, if you're trying to buy one, is take note of the light source. So you can kind of see here, this section is much darker. We have a lot of shadowing, so the light source is coming in this direction. So a lot of like probably here to here is going to be much lighter, which isn't whitening, it's just lighting. So we have to kind of keep that in mind when we review cards online, is take note of where the light source is. And so that's why I'm really not kind of chalking this up as whitening on the bottom here, as well as the right side. So centering is really good. Top right corner looks good. Top left corner looks good. Bottom left looks okay. Maybe a little bit of whitening on that bottom, but I think that's probably part of the backdrop there. And I'll just kind of zoom in just a tad more just so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Puro, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that over on TikTok. And so you kind of see here, see a little bit, possibly some whitening there. But again, that might be just either stuck on the card itself or underneath a little bit of whitening. But aside from that, that's pretty much all I see. So if it's just stuff stuck on the edge there, I'd probably say that you're good with a potential 10 contender, but those are really the only two that are kind of like, like if I had to weight like my confidence, it's like kind of at 50%, which means that I'm leaning more towards it being other factors instead of actually being on the card, which for your documentation is going to be probably here and here. Are those the only two spots that I'm really kind of hesitant about, but I think those can probably just be wiped off. Do you submit the cards for customers after cleaning? I do not. Nope. I do offer cleaning services, but right now I'm learning new techniques, so it's currently on pause. But I do have a link to a master guide that I'm partnered with Rocket Collects in my link tree, which can be found on my link in bio, and you go all the way to the bottom. Card cleaning master guides, a really helpful guide by Rocket Collects that I cannot recommend enough. Do I work as a grader? I do not, Pudge. I just keep track of all my grade assessments. So, for example, if I think a card is going to get a 9 and it comes back as a 9, I kind of record that, almost like a batting average. So I've been doing that since 2017, essentially. So all my kind of lessons learned, I kind of filter down to these weekly streams and some other people in here, like Mike, for example, is a frequent flyer. He can kind of vouch for some of the work that we've done collectively. On some of like the accuracy during these streams, so he's been a great resource. Blaze, thank you for the follow, appreciate that. And if you guys have any other questions or anything like that, please feel free to use me as a resource. At the end of the day, I'm trying to cultivate a community and a following where I share information freely and openly about being a vendor or grading or my view on the market or ways to navigate the market. So I'm more than happy to be as transparent as I possibly can. And questions are welcome. So if you have anything or questions about what I'm doing tonight, please feel free. Please don't hesitate to ask. I'm more than happy to help out. And for those of you who are following and sharing the live, I really do appreciate that as well. And so let's get on with the Blastoise EX. Personally, my favorite line of the 151. I like how the Squirtle line is kind of getting deeper into the chasm. I always like that. Blaze and Sonder, thank you guys for the follows. Thank you so much. All right. So centering on this bad boy is good. Again, nothing really jumping out. Japanese quality is so much better than the States. I will fall on that hill if I need to. Corners look great as well. I'm really just worried about the back primarily. But the front was fantastic. Let's take a little bit of a snip, shall we, chat? And highlight some things that I'm seeing on the back here. And so first off, if you guys are new here, this is the first time I've brought this up tonight, is you can kind of see in this top left corner, it's not whitening on the edge per se, but it is a little bit of whitening kind of stuck on the card there. So why I bring that up is something like this is super easy to wipe off with a microfiber cloth or a little bit of distilled water and a Q-tip or anything like that to kind of loosen that off and just wipe that off. In most cases, that's just the card stock when the cards are in a pack and just those little white particles kind of get stuck onto the card. And so if left untreated, that possibly could, go against you from the surface subgrade. And so you don't want to give PSA or BGS or CGC or any other grading company any excuse to ding you on surface grade. So something like that, just wipe off. Don't assume that they're going to do it for you. So just stuff like that is really easy to kind of treat yourself. So just kind of keep that in mind. Lucky, thank you for sharing the live, and Annie, thank you for liking the live. Appreciate you both. So left edge is good. Again, another thing that I can see here, same thing, a little bit of a little white spot right where the tip of my mouse is. So you can probably just wipe that off again. Lucky, thank you for following as well. Again, the light source is coming from the bottom right side, so a lot of this kind of glowing white, my guess is more of the lighting in addition to the angle in which the card was taken the picture of. Bean, thank you for following and sharing. Man, thank you guys so much for the love. Appreciate that very much. Stanley, welcome. So again, another little bit of whitening here. Again, all that stuff you can probably just wipe off. Don't give PSA in this example any excuse to ding you on surface. We want to make sure that these cards are in as good of a condition as possible. So as we kind of zoom out here, right, you can see 1, 2, 3 points of whitening that can probably just be removed with a microfiber cloth. So my guess, again, on this one too, this one's probably a good 10 contender as well, because I think those circles can simply just be treated by just wiping off the bits of dust. When can you say wipe it off? When you say wipe it off, what do you mean? So like stuff like this, right? So sometimes that's just card stock, that white layer in between the cards. Sometimes those little dust particles get stuck in the little dimples of the card. And so sometimes if you wipe a microfiber cloth on them, sometimes they can get removed. But if not, then it's just actual like that layer is removed, meaning the paint or the ink was removed, which in that case you can't. But in most cases, if it's kind of sporadically kind of placed like around the surface of the card, in most cases it's just stuff stuck onto it. But if it was like whitening on the actual corners itself, that is something I would agree, John, that you wouldn't be able to treat, because that's more of like a ding on the pack, like during the packing process, also known as like a whitened corner or something like that. So hopefully that clears that up. One of my goods, SIRs came damaged from the factory. I heard you can return it if you got the receipt. Well, hopefully that's true. I mean, I've definitely heard people trying to do that if a card's like absolutely mangled by the factory. Yeah, that'd be great if they can actually get a hold of them. Okay. Anders, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that very much. And Alakazam EX. This one's probably my favorite SIR from 151. I love the Alakazam artwork in this. Truly my favorite one, to be quite honest with you. Prob, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Okay, so centering again, making my life easy. Centering is really good here. The only, let's see, top right looks good, top left. Okay, it's probably a little bit of kind of artifacting from the camera. We'll have to take when we flip it over, we'll have to see if it actually transfers over. Bottom left corner looking good. Bottom edge, again, a lot of this stuff is going to be a little bit highlighted because of the light source in the bottom right. Left edge looks good, and the centering looks good, and the surface looks good. So let's flip it on over. And again, all these things that I'm talking about, guys, eBay is going to be making an announcement, because it was actually in the last PSA magazine, where PSA and eBay, again, are partnering up even more on allowing us to purchase raw cards on eBay that meet or exceed $250 in value, to be directly submitted to PSA for grading. And so all of what I'm showing you are all the things that you can also do on yourself if you're trying to look for grading plays online. So keep that in mind. If you have a white edge, how bad can PSA lower your grade? It's not a cop-out answer, Puro, but it's definitely it depends type of question, right? So if the entire edge is whitened, then that's going to be way different than a little bit of a nick. So I'd say stick around, because there's definitely going to be some cards later on in tonight's grade review stream. For example, there's a Japanese Dragonite that I quickly noticed that there is some pretty significant whitening on, so that will definitely answer your question for sure. But it really does depend. Okay, so anytime. And again, if anyone else has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer as many as I can in between cards or in between kind of looking at the front and the back. So I have opinions on a lot of stuff, like grading and pricing, how much vendors should be paying. I think now, for cards above like 100, for example, I don't think 70% for payout cuts it anymore. So I have thoughts on that, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Let's see. So potential whitening here, maybe. I'm going to be more like... That one, that might be kind of on the back, but... Should I buy 6 Pikachu Van Goghs for 1,500, then grade them PSA or tag? If you're looking for return on your investment, Viper, PSA is going to beat tag every day of the week. But in terms of like the Pikachu Van Goghs, you know, that's kind of a subjective question because I don't know the conditions of them. I'm assuming they're obviously all near mint, but whether they get 9s or 10s, I don't know. But I know raw sealed around, I mean, I have to double check, but I think when I sold mine for around 320. What website should I use to get some cards graded for sale? I'm looking at selling some cards. So, hold on. Why can't I read that? What website should I use to get some cards graded for sale as I'm looking at selling some cards? So, I'm understanding what you're saying, Anders. If you're saying to, like, what website to sell your graded stuff, eBay is going to be your best shot. But if you don't want to sell on eBay, then the other option would be to go to a trade show. Trade shows are popping up all over the place in masses, so you can be a little bit more competitive too. Depending on if you have higher end stuff, you can get a little bit better deals as well. eBay fees are crazy, but when people... You know, there are certain people who complain like, oh, like someone's offering me 80% or 75%. It's like, well, you can just sell it yourself and get, you know, sell it for 85% because assume that you're going to have, you know, for math's sake, say you're going to have 15% in fees. But you actually get, you know, more or less market because the market of Pokemon is so hot. So, but it's all about ease. Very new to grading. I got a first edition Lugia Neo Gen. Not sure where to even start on grading. Well, Ryan, you have come to the right place, my friend. I'm going to go over all that right now. So the little purple, that's like a question mark. I think there's like a little bit of whitening, but I think that's on the back of the surface. And just these little hairs that you can probably just remove with a microfiber. Let's see. But yeah, I think this card is actually in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, we can't see like this part of the card. I missed that by being cut off. I probably should have told you to retake a picture of that. But I think it's good, to be honest. I think that's a possible 10 contender. Just check that little bit of whitening. And then obviously with like all these that I'm kind of talking to you about right now, I'm kind of omitting this bottom edge only because the lighting is so harsh. So just kind of keep that in mind. Just double check those. Where would I go? Where would I look to get cards I have? Okay, and where would I look to get cards? If you're trying to pick up cards, card shows are the best, hands down. You get to see the cards physically in person. You get to look at condition in person. Everything that I'm kind of going over right now, all these little tips and tricks are so much better in person. But if you can't if there are no trade shows and you have to look online, all these tips that I'm going over right now and all these tools that I'm going over are really good alternatives too. Why do vendors buy at 70 to 80% but want 80 to 100% for their cards? There's a lot of factors. So there's sales tax. Most have to report sales, and if they're not, they're doing it illegally. So for example, I operate out of New York, so at minimum I have to pay 8% sales tax or 7% depending on where I'm at. So that's one. Table fees, convenience. Vendors are seen as a liquidation station. So we as vendors are offering a degree of a service that where if you bring cards, we basically just give you straight cash, and we have to then take on the risk of the market going up or down depending on if people buy. That's why people now are like things like 9s equal raw for modern, or people not taking, you know, at a certain, like, cards that are under a certain amount just due to the risk and due to table space and such. And yeah, it's really just the return on their investment at the end of the day. And so again, if people are trying to look, like if you as a seller are trying to look for absolute top dollar, selling it yourself is going to be the best way. But if you want ease and convenience, you're going to have to go and shop around vendors. I will say that 70% is going to be more on the lower end for most cards now, because just demand and people knowing the value of their cards is going up. But that also means that vendors are being more picky with what they take in. So at the end of the day, if someone wants the maximum value, it's going to be that they are going to have to sell it themselves. They're not gonna get 90 to 100% value to selling it to a vendor, because unless the vendor is desperate for good product, like for example, I'll offer for really good cards, I'll offer 80 to 90% if it's a really, really good card that I know has that warrants a premium. So, but everyone does it different. But that's the gist. There's a lot of costs on the vendor side because we're seen as a liquidation station at the end of the day. Slowly building up my collection. Got a Gengar EX PSA 10 and Charizard 4 PSA 10. That's awesome, Viper. Can you grade one of my cards? I'm sure. Queue is closed tonight, but you can submit your cards in the Discord. Link is in the bio. Ryan, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. All right. Zapdos time. Centering is great. Corners are good. Zapdos, probably one of my favorite, like, top three cards for sure. Or top 3 Mons. I'm a big Gen 1 guy. Grew up with Gen 1. So Zapdos really has a place in my heart. Yeah, exactly, Perot. And I completely get it too. You know, at the end of the day, we all understand that a lot of really good cards have really good value. But it's really just having that understanding of like what the vendor, like for example, there have been cards that I buy at like 70 or 80%, you know, that absolutely tank a month later. So I took that risk and you didn't have to, essentially, like in that moment of time. You know, that's kind of the risk of the business. So the lower the percentage, the lower the risk. But obviously the seller has to agree on that lowered price, right? And so for me, like how my business operates now, like I'll really only offer 70% on cards that, you know, are 50 or under, only because I just have enough of, like, I have enough supply of that price range. Whereas anything above that, I tend to offer at lowest 75% and then go up. I rather sell to vendors and card shops. I regret selling some cards. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, Puro, too, it's actually like relatively recently that shows have been becoming more readily available. I remember even like 2 years ago when because I started vending like at the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, and I found it very hard to find card shows to vend at. Now it's like crazy. Like you could put like a pin anywhere in your state, hopefully, and then put like a 50-mile radius, and you'll probably get at least 2 or 3. It's crazy. And so the supply of shows is so much higher because the demand is just at an all-time high. And so not having to sell to a shop is a really good alternative. But shops are obviously, you know, they have to offer lower because they, in addition to, you know, everything that I talked about from a vendor's perspective, they also have rent, they also have to pay for employees, stuff like that. But again, anytime someone is taking your goods and giving you straight cash, they're always going to offer a percentage because they are taking the risk and you get the immediate cash and you don't have to do the work. But if you want to do the work to if you want to get to close as market as possible, you have to sell the cards on your own. That's the only way you're going to get as close to market as possible. You have to do it on your own. The back of the Zapdos. Let's see. Corners look great. Centering looks great. Yeah, I think the Zapdos I think is a good 10 contender. Charlie, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. So yeah, I think you got some really good 10 contenders, my friend. For example, I would offer my cards today and then try to give. Sorry, Frazzle, I just saw this. For example, what would you offer on my cards today for cash and then trade to give chat an idea? I'm not selling. Yeah, so we can do that real quick. So like, for example, like for me, this is good. Definitely, I will say that this will be a huge outlier because I can only speak from personal experience. But let's say that you came to my table with this Venusaur, Charizard, and Zapdos, right? So the first thing that I'm going to check, because like if I had these cards raw, this is what everyone's going to check. They're going to say, oh, is this card gradable? If it is, then they're going to try to buy it. If it's not, then they're not going to try to buy it. So let's say that I think, even though I told you that most of these would probably get 10s, because if I did think that they were going to get 10s, I'd grade them myself and blah, blah, blah. So let's say that there are 9s, right? So if I could see, okay, this is going to be a 9, so I got to list it at near mint price. For something like this, these cards have been kind of, like, honestly, for the 151 stuff, it's been dipping pretty substantially because of the reprints, and the amount of supply is starting to increase over time for these cards. So I would probably, like, if the card is under, in this example, like I said, if it's under 100, I'd probably offer, like, anywhere, like, 70% market. But anything above, I'd probably offer a little bit more, depending on how many copies. But I would also say that for Japanese specifically, I personally have a very hard time moving Japanese. So I personally probably wouldn't move it, only because I know that I would have to sit on this for a very long time, just due to the shows that I go to and due to the cards that I have available. Like, so for example, I have a bunch of like vintage Japanese from Neo Discovery, Neo Destiny, and they have sat there for over a year, the amount of shows that I've gone to. So just kind of put it into perspective. Oh, welcome, Robbie. Can I send you through my Phantom Forces Gengar to look at? Yeah. I mean, like I said, the queue is closed tonight. Yeah. Do you think the American one is going to increase in the next years? Are you talking about, if you're talking about the Charizard EX, right now I think a lot of the sets are starting to cool off, which is huge. So I think buyers in a really good position right now, for sure. And if anyone needs more info on how to submit their cards in the Discord, I'd be more than happy to kind of give more of a breakdown as well. So, but thank you, Frazzle, as always. Price, I don't know, Ivan. I was just kind of giving an example. But just for Frazzle's perspective, like, he wanted to use those as an example of the point I was trying to make. Like, for me, Japanese is super hard to move, and so I probably wouldn't pick it up. Because that's why, like, for me, when I offer higher percentages, I really have to be picky because I really need that capital in order to pay out higher if something really cool crosses the table. I've been debating on whether I should sell or hold on to my extra Charizard 151. So anytime a question like that is presented, Swoozy, one of the first things I always ask is, do you need the cash? Because if you don't, then I would hold on to it. Right now, it's dipping pretty good. Because at the end of the day, it's a Charizard still. So if you don't need the cash, I'd hold on to it if it were me. Was that a sheep emoji? Thank you for the follow, and Swoozy, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Again, if anyone needs an explanation on how to join the Discord to submitting your cards for a future grade review, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to kind of actually break it down a little bit more in depth. Yeah, with a big dip, it's hard. I need the cash, but I have sealed I would rather get rid of. Yeah, if it were me, Swoozy, like, I personally prefer, and again, I know, like, sealed collectors and, like, sealed product has, you know, it's a little bit more steady of an appreciation of value. But having said that, so many people right now, and so many people, especially with Modern, are holding on to sealed. So there is going to be a point where sealed, you know, yes, it will increase in price, but everyone has the same exact idea. So, did I take a look at Pikachu Zekrom? I have not. I have joined. Do I just post under grade review? Yes. Yep, just post your cards in grade review. Just look at the pinned messages on how to properly submit, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, if you're strapped for cash, like, obviously, like, that's a totally different, you know, totally different set of circumstances that only you really know the answer to. But there's gonna be a crazy flood. Oh. You guys there? My stream took a dip. Just making sure you guys are still with me. You guys still there? Unless it's just me, I don't know. Type 1 if you guys can hear me. Type 1 if you guys can hear me. It might have just been a little bit of a dip, but I don't know. Yeah, it's lagging a little bit. Hold on. One sec, chat. Alright. I think we should be there. We'll kind of just keep chugging along. We'll just keep monitoring it, I guess. We'll just kind of keep chugging. Okay. So the first Charizard EX. Let's take a look. Centering looks good on